a lot has changed in the past weeks since we spoke.
Yeah.
And I, something in the, in your talk at the beginning kind of made me think of, I don't know if you've heard, maybe I'm not pronouncing it right, but he's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I've heard of him.
he has this idea of interbeing, I think it's is what he calls it.
Yeah.
And I think it's not, I'm guessing it's not original to him. I'm thinking it's a Buddhist concept, but the example he uses, and I think this connects to the idea of there being no center and the experience of um, no doership. But he talks about if you look at a flower, um, what we label as a flower, no matter how close, no matter how far back you get, you'll never find the letters Flower.
Yeah.
Um, and the more you penetrate into what is this flower, you find that it's made up of non-flower elements. So it's really it's more of a verb. It's more of an activity of the
Yeah.
clouds and the rain and the soil and the sunlight and the
Yeah,
seed.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's this kind of it's it's
Yeah.
like yeah, it's an activity of
It's a doing.
consciousness.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. It is a doing, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the closest I can think. That's what comes up when I think about the experience here for me currently is it feels very much just that everything is it's like it's there's just no boundaries.
Yeah.
um, it's like everything is the same dimension, the thinking happening, the movement happening, the feelings happening. It's just there's no it's just it's empty, I guess.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I just kind of wanted to mention that. And
It's beautiful.
actually, yeah, I actually have a question. So my am I taking too much time?
No, not at all, no.
Okay. So the mind has become, and the belief system has really just become very empty and almost too empty. Um, there's moments just where I feel so merged with things that it's really kind of disorienting. Like I'll forget where I am, or at the grocery store, it was like I found myself in the cereal aisle, and it was like 3 minutes or something had gone by. Um, it just, I just
Yeah.
very, very empty.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit dysfunctional that way. But I've noticed that um, there's this, I think I may have talked to you about it, but a real dense knot of energy in the stomach. And it feels like it's like the root of the identification with the body. It's like the thoughts and the emotions have kind of just emptied out or become very transparent, um, very liquid, I guess. But then there's this real, seems like the identification with the body is kind of the last. And who knows? I know increasingly less every day, but I just wanted to see if
Yeah.
you had any thoughts about that.
Yeah. Whereabouts do you feel that knot in your body? Did you say your stomach?
Yeah, in the stomach area, and I guess kind of right around the navel, and kind of almost like it's like a deep clenching. It's like if I were to put words to it, it's like resistance itself, or separation itself, or know itself, something like that.
Yeah. So in Buddhism, the way I heard this area described, like I can also describe it from a chakra position, but another way is that I heard the Buddhists describe it as the place of emptiness. So the place of the heart is where the I am is where beingness is, and then emptiness comes from the navel. And you know, like the images in Chinese Buddhism of the Buddha having a really big stomach. Like,
Yeah.
so he sits there and he meditates and he's really like the fat Buddha, like really big. And that's meant to
Yeah.
represent like the hara, this hara, which is this place of emptiness, and like how big and how empty it is. Like, so I would say like that does have relevance, like if that's what you're talking about. Like it is so empty, life is so empty, there's nothing there. And it does feel like in the body it does manifest in a way in the hara, like this big spacious emptiness. Like every time you breathe in, that breath goes on endlessly. And then from the chakra position, so just remember everything I say isn't right. I can't quite put anything in words, and I can't really be correct, but what I can do is point to things, and then something can unravel or something can get undone. And so just whatever touches you in this. So then from the chakra perspective, like this is the place of creativity and sexuality. And this, you could see it from a tantra perspective of where life starts. So the sexuality, like when two people make love, it like creates new life out of nothing. And so you could also see this place as where all life comes from, like that creative energy comes from. So in Tantra, they would say that Shiva, this consciousness, is the emptiness, and then Kali dances on his lap. Also, people call it Shakti. Like the way I know it is Kali dances on his lap, and that's meant to mean the life. And it's when these two forms come together that life actually takes place. So, so on both sides, from the perspective of the hara and the emptiness, and then the perspective of sexuality and creativity, is this really profound spot.
Yeah, it feels very profound. It feels very primal, if I could say that.
Yeah, the beginning of things. And when it's in that contracted state, so when it's really like tight and painful, it's often related to fear of survival and fear of creativity. So it is like the base fear of the person.
Yes,
Because if you can't be creative, you can't survive. Like that's how humans survive, is through creativity. And not like the lion that just goes out and hunt. We have to create. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like existential terror, to be honest. It feels like a death, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's you could say humanity's collective fear. Like yesterday I went into London. Have you ever been to London before?
I have.
In England. I think you've got a London in America, haven't you?
Oh, is there?
I think so. But England's London.
Yes, I've been.
Yeah. So I went to London. I was having lunch with my mum. We were there all day. And I just felt like I was sitting in this dining hall, like listening to everyone talk, and I'm really tapping into the energy. That everyone is so terrified of being alive.
Mm.
Like it could all be my projection. We never know at the end of the day what's what. But it felt like I was just tapping into the energy of the room. And so that energy that you feel there is what you've grown in. Like society is terrified of being alive and terrified of dying.
Yes.
And so there is this like profound, deep terror of this thing called life, because everything can be taken away. And what you're most afraid of actually is not death and not everything being taken away. What you're afraid of is the unknown.
Mm.
But the thing is like you described what Thich Nhat Hanh said about the flower, is that we've actually created the known. Our nature has always been the unknown. We've created the idea of flower, the idea of being alive, the idea of being dead, the idea of fear, We created all of that. So our
Right.
nature is the unknown. It's like what we're really afraid of is ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Um, yeah, so this is maybe um, pushing it a bit, but I'm just curious if you if there was a point where that if you experienced that clenching, it seems like it's maybe a universal thing, and if there was a point where that sort of emptied out or
Yeah.
released.
Yeah. This thing happened to me in Bali that was really shocking. I've spoken about that many times. Like when I was 30, I was in this cafe in Bali, and something happened that was really profound. And there've been lots of things building up to that. But after that happened, there seems to be a working through like old karmas in the body. So there still can be
Yes.
like contractions and difficulties that happen in chakras in the body. And like yesterday when I was sitting in the cafe, like the way that I feel other people's energies is as if it's my own. Like it's not like there's these other people out there that are having energies and I'm in relationship. It feels like my own energy in a way, not
Yeah.
mine as Lisa, but mine as life.
Yeah.
So there's still like a foot in the door that knows these types of things, but there is um, this shift that happened. But in saying all of that, just notice what the mind does, that the mind is waiting and looking for an end, and just notice the illusion
Yeah.
of that. So so the
Yeah.
trick of that and the game of that, like that in the way you're asking that question, I answer it because I want to be honest with my experience, but but also just notice the game in it, that the mind
Mm,
looks for an end, your essence doesn't look for an end. Your essence doesn't
right.
look for a start, and that's all that you are, is this unknown mystery right here.
Mm,
And it's just keep showing up to it and keep delving into that you can handle that existential fear. That
mm.
it's not your enemy, it's actually your gift. It's actually what's knocking on you, like knocking on the door, keeping you into this subject. And
Yeah,
if that
that's
kind of like,
exactly.
if it lessened by like 80%, then you'd go out and seek for pleasure again.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Wesley. It's really nice to speak to you.
You too.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, bye.
Bye.